Alright. Okay, hello. Hi, everyone. Well, it's been a long time coming for a chat stream. I think it's been a good enough while, and I finally have my excuse with Bartender actually getting, a reboot. Honestly, I never thought that anime could get a reboot, but apparently it did, so you know what? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about all three versions. Or, well, I'm gonna limit it to 6 episodes for both animes and the various manga chapters that go with said episodes. However, well, let's see. I guess let's do a vibe check. Hopefully everyone's doing well today. I know for me, well, as always, I am near dead and tired, but, well, I suppose such is my life these days. The only days I have any kind of, well, the only days I have a lot of energy are, well, Thursdays and Mondays, but, well, this is fine. I think I could use a break from all the crazy grinds and the gaming and my recent long-formed harmonic recordings where I nearly run out of breath and pass out. I suppose even I need a break. But yeah, as far as what you're hearing in the background right now, though, it is from the 2006 Bartender OST. I don't know how the rest of the remakes OSTs will go, but I think for the most part, 2006's OST is timeless. It's just so good. It's so relaxing, and damn, the OP is just straight up fire. Like, dang. It's like, I don't hate the opening for the remake, but 2006's OP is just, it's too good. Oh man, it's something you guys will have to see for yourself. I think it's called Bartender by Natural High. Although there's a nice VTuber cover of it made by Miori Celestia and Hiragi Yu. Speaking of Hiragi, I think Hiragi's probably the only one that's gonna beat me in Bartender knowledge as far as the manga and the animes go. I will say, I am glad that actual bartenders watch this one, and surprisingly, they enjoy it. You would think this would come with the natural caveats of, you know, like, oh, this is unrealistic, or, this is not how it goes, or, but it's like, no, bartenders actually enjoy this anime. It's actually quite amazing. In fact, I think there's been one I've followed time to time recently to see what they think of, the latest episodes. What was it? Oh, right, the Tropical Raven. That's the one. He's been reviewing the episodes, and also making the cocktails from said episodes. It's been pretty nice to watch. And honestly, it's still kind of a shame that this anime, even with a remake and a fresh coat of paint, is still kind of a sleeper hit. But it's also understandable. It's not the most exciting anime around, as much as I love Bartender. Like, I mean, it's got mystery and a sort of a monster of the day formula, but you're not getting crazy-ass shonen action or Freyren humor or anything like that. It's just real, and that might be boring to some people, sadly. So, for me, I find it a comforting slice of life, but, well, that's me. Mr. Bitter. Mr. I hate cute things, except I kinda don't. Well, at least that's how I describe myself. It's like, how do I put it? Things like Bartender I like. If you give me a not a shit, but if you gave me a show about, like, high school slice of life like K-On!, I'd say no, I'm done. It ain't happening. I really should get into apothecaries, but well. Back to Bartender, though, before I sidetrack a little too much. So, what the heck is even Bartender the manga? Alright. Or rather, just what is Bartender in general, other than, a profession? Well, Bartender is a manga written by Araki Joe and illustrated by Kenji Nagatomo. It's ran a pretty long course. Like, I remember, interruptions aside, back to it. So, Bartender the anime, or rather, right, back to the history of Bartender. Bartender ran its course for, I'd say a pretty good while. Let me find the exact date. Okay, so it ran from 2004 to 2011. Oh, that's a pretty good while then. I knew I remember this manga. Except, it was a little earlier than 2011. I think I was still in Sunday school at some point while reading this manga. And it was great. Oh man, I don't know. I wasn't an alcoholic. My family is pretty terrible at keeping the alcohol together, and a couple of people died from, liver cancer. Or liver fail, but, well, that's besides the point. You would think I wouldn't like this one, but I do. It was so good. It was just so much different compared to, like, the Narutos and all the other stuff people touted as good. I could always go to this manga when the times were, well, rough. And from there on, I ran into the anime. I enjoyed the heck out of that. I got all the way to the end of the manga, and man, it was a disappointing feeling. But, yeah. Well, that's my history with it. As for what else happens in the manga, there's actually 3 more mangas related to it, and I haven't found these until now, so maybe I'll find a translated version someday. I remember looking for Bartender à Paris, which is Ryu's journey in Paris, and, yeah. Bartender at Tokyo and Bartender 6 STP are apparently sequels, kind of. They follow different bartenders and not Ryu anymore, but I don't know. It feels so weird not reading about Ryu. That being said, I think after 2011, the anime went dormant. Well, Bartender in general just kind of went underground for a long time. I never thought it would get a remake. Hell, man, I was so overjoyed hearing that it was getting a remake, and I've been binge watching the heck out of it. I haven't been on top of my anime game, except when it comes to this anime, because holy shit, I love this anime. It's so good. And the manga's even, well, the manga's for even more. It has much more in it. And, if there's one thing I'm glad that the manga brought, or rather the latest adaptation brought in, that the, 2006 adaptation didn't have, Ryu actually has a personality, and actually goes through a character arc in this one. Compared to previously, where he's just the mysterious bartender who solves problems with good drinks. And it's like, hey, that works, but it's kind of nice having a personality, I think. Or at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm just getting sick of silent pro tags and other things, but I don't know. maybe it is just me. But, man. I will say, though, despite me singing the praises of, the, current anime, 2006 was actually not that bad upon rewatch. Or at least, for a sec, I thought it was... Well, both of them have some strange pacing. Both of them have some odd pacing. I would say the 2006 one flies a little faster through the manga chapters, but 2024 also has like 2 to 3 manga chapters per an episode for some of these. The ones that I tend to like the most are the episodes that focus on, at most, maybe 2 stories, but generally the one that focuses on one whole story for the duration of the the episode. Anyway. Right. Let me just catch my thoughts here for a second. Right. There's quite a few notable differences, though, between all 3 versions. I mean, for one, the manga actually has an arc before, well, several chapters before Ryu actually gets eaten whole. Meanwhile, both animes, Ryu just gets eaten whole right off the bat. Except the latest version. Okay, the latest version, as far as it goes, in the manga, Ryu actually bar hops and has apprenticeships under... Well, okay, he works for one bar, he gets an apprenticeship at another bar, and then he finally gets Eden Hall and does all the stuff with Eden Hall for a while. I won't say what happens later on, but yeah. Well, I'll try not to spoil too much. Oh, I should probably put the warning. Right. I better put this here just in case. Don't want anyone to, don't want to ruin the mystery for anyone. In case they... yeah. Hey, Shadow. Unfortunately for today, I'm not gonna be as off-topic as I normally am. Since I'm here to just basically gush about a show for, like, probably at least an hour. Maybe 2 hours. We'll see. I have a lot to say about Bartender, the show. Since it's fantastic. And hell, I'd say fuck it. I'd say, okay, maybe not 10 hours. Not until the season ends with Bartender. If I were talking purely about the manga, I could probably go for another 2 hours. But we're just going to be looking into 6 episodes of the 2006 anime and 6 episodes of the, latest anime, and all of the manga chapters associated with said episodes, their themes, blah 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 blah, differences. Just, I guess I always did wanted to talk about this one. I'll probably end up making a session for Monster, and maybe a session for Dr. Frost someday too. Since, they are some of my favorites. Now then, with that being said, I should start chronologically with the 2006 anime, since that did come out first, and it was the only adaptation for the longest time. So, let's start with the 2006 anime. Let me just title this. Okay, I guess that's a little bit too obvious, but I'm doing this to keep track, and probably it's better for this since I'm gonna split this up into several episodes and all. Let's do this. And let's change my fonts into probably something more decent. There, unfortunately, isn't a Bartender game, although I say this, and I will say, if you wanted a game based on Bartender, Valhalla gets very close to the feeling you'd get by watching or reading Bartender. Alright, let me just mess around with fonts a little more. So, let's talk about Bartender Episode 1. So, the first episode, as far as the 2006 anime goes, let's see. It starts off gushing about the legend of Eden Hall, and, I already forgot what that one was. The Luck of Eden Hall. There we go. That's the legend. So, let's see. It's about fairies gathering around a lucky glass. Wait a minute. Am I able to do that? I don't think so. It's probably gonna mess it up if I try it. I mean, it's worth a shot, but I don't think this is gonna end well for me. In fact, I'll probably just, oh yeah, I'm gonna disappear if I do that, so... Sadly, no. I wish I could, but sadly, this is not happening. I would love to, but it's not happening. Anyway, let's get back to it. So, the legend of Eden Hall goes as follows. Well, there's actually a ballad about it, so let's read it for a second. As the goblet ringing flies apart, suddenly cracks in the vaulted hall, and through the rifts the wild flames start. The guests in dust are scattered all, with the breaking of Eden Hall. In storms the foe with fore and sword, he in the night scaled the wall. Slain by the sword lies the youthful lord, but in his hand the crystal tall, the shattered luck of Eden Hall. It's basically a cup of good luck, that if the cup breaks, the good luck goes kaputs. Now then, how does this relate to Bartender, you may ask? The first episode introduces us to the bar, aptly named Eden Hall, which is going to be the main bar for all three versions, with, well, varying differences, like I say. In episode 1, Sasakura already starts off owning the bar, and episode 1 takes a page out of the first chapter of the manga with some slight differences. So, let's see. As far as the manga's version of the first chapter goes, there's a part at the beginning where Ryu perfectly remembers a customer ordering a Suze gimlet and a Charles Jordan. The customer is actually the female character named Miwa. Let me just try to find her, actually. Right. Let me get a quick photo. Oh man, I'm gonna have to get a photo of a lot of characters to make this actually, No, it's not Liwa, it's Miwa. Anyway. So in this chapter, or rather in this version, the one who gets the Charles Jordan and the Suze gimlet is, where did I put it? Hopefully I didn't mess it up and lose the screenshot. I'm gonna be kind of sad if I did. Oh, there we go. There's Miwa. This is Miwa. Right here. That's her. She's the first customer. However, the manga does it a little differently. So, let's see. Curses. I wonder if they actually have the minor characters somewhere here. There we go. Hayase. So, in the manga, Hayase was the customer that Ryu had in Paris. But the anime changes it up a little bit, and, hey, Ozzy. But yeah. So, the anime changes it up. Also, right. So, we're talking about Bartender the anime. Specifically the 2006 version for now. If you guys want to go off topic, I unfortunately can't help you there this time. Because, I want to actually stay on topic for this one. So yeah, Ryu's manga guest for the Suzy Gimlet and Charles Jordan is Hayase, who, well, we'll talk about him later when we get to the remake. But for now, that's one of the things they changed. So the next thing they change around is this episode. Okay, so the first chapter of all three has a tired customer, and Ryu serves them a drink. Except the drink is actually a simple drink, but it differs for all three versions. And the 2006 anime is actually faithful to the manga, while the remake kind of switches it up. It even switches up the drink. Because the drink in the 2006 anime is it's what he calls mizuwari, but as far as English goes, it's a water cut whiskey. Like a half and half. To lighten the alcohol content due to, well, the reasoning in the anime and the manga is that the customer's been having some stomach problems lately, and so they needed a drink with, well, less alcohol, even though they still want to drink. So yeah, there you go. And as for the reasonings behind the customer's motivations at the bar, in the manga and anime, I think, but I think it's mostly the 2006 anime I remember the plot reasoning the most. The customer, Kamishima, comes to Eden Hall, ready to deride the bar and just say it sucks, because he's been having a bad time trying to find a bartender for his Hotel Cardinal. And this stems from a previous experience for Kamishima, where he could only get beer at a bar, but there was a hole in his pocket, so he couldn't even pay the tab. And the bartender just told him to come back later. But he got deeply embarrassed by that situation, and since then he's just hated bars. That's the motivation in the 2006 one. I'll have to recheck the manga version, but I think it's roughly the same motivation. In all three versions, though, the ice is what makes the drink work, because the bar ice keeps the dilution, or rather, the bar ice stays cold and melts a lot slower than normal ice, so that's why the customers could enjoy the drink in all three versions. But we'll get to episode 1 again. That's the first episode anyway. It's not a bad introduction. Just, like, you know, this customer is, needs a drink, but they hate bars, but that's not the real reason, yada yada. They get a nice drink, a nice pep talk from Ryu, and they're on their way, and the story concludes with them actually making the bar they wanted to make, instead of just letting it all go to slop. This is the first episode for Bartender 2006. Let's talk a little bit about the second one. Whew. I'll switch up the music once we get to remake. I wish I had good memory, but this is my Cliff Notes, since I don't completely remember things. However, I need the Cliff Notes so I can jog my memories around a bit. So, let's talk about the second anime. Or rather, let's talk about episode 2, actually. Because episode 2 in 2006 is kind of disjointed. In a way. So, they introduce a side character named Mr. Perfect, or as his real name goes, Ryuichi Kuzuhara. Except they don't really do much with him other than say, yeah, this guy makes really good cocktails. And in the manga, the cocktail, the chair, well, actually, yeah, there's an old man that's the customer of the day in episode 2. The drink he gets from Kuzuhara is an Aphrodite. Meanwhile, in the manga, well, there's a completely different story behind his old-timer drink, where he gets an old pal. So, yeah, they just kinda rapid-fire the manga story in, like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something. And, well, not even 10 minutes, it's more like 5 minutes. And then the rest of the story for episode 2 in 2006 focuses on a later chapter in the manga called Menu of the Heart, where Miwa comes back again to pretty much ask the bartender for the impossible, because she's trying to find a drink, except she doesn't know what the bottle looks like. She only knows how the bottle feels, because she dropped the drink. And the story behind the drink was that it was supposed to be a reconciliation between her grandpa and her father, or at least to help it, because they were arguing about how Japanese hotels should go. Whether it should be the old-fashioned style, or more of a new age, and the dad and grandpa clashed. They were supposed to reconcile over a drink, but she broke the drink, so they had no chance, and a while later, both her parents die in a car accident, so the chance for reconciliation is, gone. And through the story and the context, Ryu figures out that the drink that was broken was a Suntory Kakubin. Yeah, she only knows what the bottle feels like, and the bartender is supposed to try and help her find said bottle for her grandpa, since it's the anniversary of her dad's death. Yeah. The bartender, after listening to her story, pretty much does the impossible, and apparently figures out that it's a Kakubin Suntory. I forget why it was the Kakubin Suntory, but it's been a good while. Ah, there we go. That's what I was looking for. So the Kakubin Suntory was made at the crossroad when Japan was transitioning into a modern era. Was there a live action of this? Oh, you're one of the rare ones that watched the live action of Bartender. Indeed there was, and it kinda sucked. Oh man. I did not feel anything about watching that version. Oh geez, wow. Dang, did I hate that one so much I actually forgot about it? Although I will say, the live action version tried to play a little more into the manga version of Ryu, except it made Ryu a lot more cocky and a lot less warm-hearted, so maybe that's why I didn't like that one too much. It's kind of like when I watched live action Dr. Frost. It's pretty bad. Anyway, let's go back to episode 2. I would say the lesson at the end of episode 2 about you can provide, the classic service, but in a new age. I'd say it's a nice lesson, or a nice thought. 'Cause, I don't know. Sometimes you can adapt the old ways into a modern era. Just do a few tweaks, but keep the same spirit. Which is ironically what the new Bartender is doing. It's adapting some of the old warmth of the manga and a little bit then and there of 2006, but keeping it, fresh. And, well, I can gush about that version later, but we have a few more episodes to go through. But yeah, I'm trying to remember what else they played with in this manga. And I think for the most part, the second half of episode 2, revolving around the Sunatori Kakubin and Miwa's grandpa, is pretty accurate to the manga, all things considered. As far as my thing with the pacing of the episodes so far, I would say the first episode was fine. Second episode, well, I guess after reading the manga it feels a bit weird, but the second half is paced well enough. The third episode. We're gonna come back to this one yet again when I talk about the fifth episode of the 2024 remake. But for now, though, let's talk about the third episode. It's actually one of my favorite episodes, in fact, because it revolves around. Alright, so the episode is also the same name as the chapter in the manga called The Glass of Regret. It's about an old man CEO who's made it to the top, went all the way. But, however, it's the anniversary of a theater show that he was supposed to be a part of. And the old man is in a really shitty mood. And he goes to Ryu's bar and asked for a salty cocktail? I forgot what kind of cocktail. But Ryu whips up a margarita for him and tells a story about, I don't remember if this is actually the story of the margarita, but I suppose in Bartender 2006... Did I put episode 3? Hold on. Oh no. Oops. Okay. Yep, there we go. Alright, so we're talking about episode 3 now. So from episode 3, right, where was I with this? Oh, right. So, he gets a margarita. Ryu tells the story about how the margarita was made by a bartender who in the past was hunting, but he accidentally killed his wife, who was aptly named Margarita. And so, eventually, he makes this cocktail as a way to remember her, and all of his regrets about killing her. And the old man laughs off the story, and says it's a bunch of hodgepodge because he's in the advertisement business, and it's all about dressing up a product with, some fictional history that'll make it seem more special than it really is, and how Ryu's a dumb young bartender, and blah blah blah. And after railing at Ryu, when he gets back to his car, he quickly realizes he kinda fucked up. And really regrets yelling at Ryu about the past and all. And at the same time, he still has his regrets about dropping theater to be the CEO of an advertisement company and leaving his friend behind as a result. Or, actually no, it wasn't his friend. It was the old man's love interest that he left behind in this episode. And every year since he became CEO, he would get tickets to, I think it was to a show called The Doll's House. Yeah, no. Right. It was an actual show. Because the ticket was for a show, or rather an adaptation of Henrik Ibsen's A Dollhouse. Man. Whew. And, yeah. As he's running back to Eden Hall to apologize to Ryu, he basically has, like, a long string of flashbacks. And at the conclusion of the flashbacks, he basically just concludes that he had his own choice, she had her own choice, and they made the best out of what they could in life, despite the paths going a different way. Now, for the story of regrets, I actually like the version in 2024 a little more, to some extent, but, well, we get there when we get there. Otherwise, I would say this is one of Bartender's stronger episodes, actually. Or at least 2006's stronger episodes, and probably one of the stronger ones in general for the manga. Since I think a lot of people have regrets later in life, with all the things they could have done, or the people they left behind, and just coming to accept those things. I mean, shit, I have a ton of them as well. There's a lot of things I regret. There's a lot of things I wish I could have done. There's so many what ifs. I mean, even now, but... and I'm pretty sure I'll have, like, 90 more someday later. Sadly. I guess I can't escape my own desires and what have ya. Regretting that cheese. One regret I don't mind sharing. You know, I've told this story around a shadow at least once. I have this friend that pops up in my dreams occasionally. I don't know why she pops up, she just does. And these dreams, I tend to sleep the longest. And I guess it's probably a manifestation of my regrets of just not keeping in contact and wishing I had a little more time with her. She wasn't any kind of love interest or anything, just one of my first friends in HS, and well, I don't know where she is these days. I'm sure she's doing well. But it's, yeah. Probably one of my bigger regrets. If anything else. Which is also why I guess I do like that episode, because of that. Those kind of, well, that theme in particular. So, let's see. The next one is a theme, well, okay, the first three are themes I can't connect to, but people that have a significant other probably might be able to. However, let's switch this to episode 4. Sorry if it's blurry. Now then, episode 4 is also a little disjointed. It focuses on 3 chapters in the manga, the first being Liqueur of Love, the second being Coincidental Service, and the last one being Amber Dream. Now, why do I say this is disjointed? Well, it's spread across several, it's spread across several arcs, actually, because The Amber Dream is in Volume 2, while Coincidental Surface is in Volume 4, and what was the last one? Oh, Liqueur of Love. Liqueur of Love is also in Volume 2, so yeah, very disjointed as far as the flow goes. Although, to be fair, as far as Bartender goes, it's a series of vignettes, so technically, each of these events could have happened at one point or another in Ryu's career, so I suppose it gets a pass. Anyway, Liqueur of Love involves basically a girl trying the bar scene for the first time, and they ask for something sweet. So Ryu gives her a Alexander Amaretto. Later on, the same girl comes back, but with broken chocolate. So Ryu makes her, with the broken chocolate, also another Alexander Amaretto. But instead of chocolate liqueur, he uses the melted chocolate from her broken heart. And while he's making it, right, this is gonna come into play later for the first episode of the 2024 remake, but she comments on how Ryu's bartending shaking makes his hands look sexy. Do people actually... You know what? I probably shouldn't question it. People probably do find the most mundane things attractive sometimes. Anyways, and the last one is based on a chapter called Amber Dream, where, well, in the manga, Ryu actually gets invited to a private home bar. In the anime for 2006, however, this happens at his bar, where... Alright, so the story difference isn't that much, it's pretty much the same thing. But, in 2006, the wife is waiting for the husband. Well, actually no, she waits for the husband also in 2000 and... Oh, also in the manga, but back to it. The wife is waiting for the husband, who's a workaholic, and has been seemingly ignoring her. So, the husband finally comes. They both get a drink. Ryu makes them a bijo. No, not Koseki bijo. Although it would be kind of funny if she watched this anime and knows that there's a drink named after, well, coincidentally named after her, but I hope someday I'm not the only VTuber in this sphere who watches Bartender. That'd be too sad. But, back to the Amber Dream. The husband and wife are going through marriage... They're going through marriage problems, where it feels like one is overworking and ignoring the other, so the wife gets fed up and has a divorce paper at the ready to give at the end of the bar session. However, the husband gets furious and states his reasoning for overworking was that when he married her, her parents called him useless and peasant, so he worked all the way to the top. It's kinda tragic. And, she's taken aback. And Ryu tactfully takes their bijos and basically just mixes the layers with some bitters to make an Amber Dream. And he uses the Amber Dream to basically, it's basically to tell them to hash it out and hang in there, because while jewels are beautiful, like in a bijo cocktail, an amber is even more beautiful because it has the magic of time to age it, crystallize it, and give it its characteristic shine. A timeless shine. I guess in theory, well, I wouldn't say in theory, but the idea of relationships maturing with time and, going through patches but getting better if you keep at it and put the work in is, I'd say that's a good, capstone lesson or what have you. As you can tell from me, the word love to me is, questionable sometimes. Maybe someday I can agree with this meaning too, completely. Like I say, I, might be cynical, but I would really prefer the world where all the positive concepts actually win out 100% of the time. Or at least maybe 99% of the time. But this ain't that world, unfortunately. However, I can agree that relations take time. And I liked that Amber Dream episode, or at least that part. It's kind of wished... well, my parents tried, and it ended the way it did, so I suppose I can't really think too hard on that one. Oh, I almost forgot about the third part of the fourth episode, which is this part called The Coincidental Service, which is also a manga chapter. And it's pretty lighthearted. In fact, it's so lighthearted, I'll switch the music right here and now. Hold on. I need some goofy ass music for this. I think it's this one. There we go. So this chapter, or this part in the fourth episode, Ryu basically plays wingman to a very awkward couple who are trying to get along. They're trying to make the effort, but they're kind of fucking up like dorks. So Ryu's, at the request of one of his customers, is really trying to help them with a bunch of silly-ass coincidences. Let me go over this for a second. Okay, so the coincidences are, at one point, the girl has her bra strap out, but, needs to cover it up. So Ryu cranks up, or rather cranks down the temperature, so she freezes and puts her coat over the bra strap. And there's some other parts too, like, he serves them a Jack Rose to get both of them talking about Titanic. He has them enjoy a Calvados after lighting it on fire in a glass for them to enjoy the ambience and fragrance. And, yeah, at the end of the day, the couple he's trying to help confesses their feelings, and they finally get along, and it's like, yippee! Oh god, I sound dumb saying that. I should stop. But, all in all, a pretty lighthearted episode. The part about... let's switch back to the old pal Aishu. Oh wait, no. I'll switch back to that one later. But, that's the intent of it's so cringe! I'm too old! Then again, I'm too old to be talking about mushy concepts. That should be more for the female VTubers, not me. Damn it! I'm already failing at my own job. Okay, but, alright, so that was the fourth episode. It basically deals with relationships and falling in love. I think the Amaretto one, though, was less about love and more about, well, the Amaretto one has more meaning in the remake than it does in this one, but we'll get back to the Amaretto Alexander. Anyway, let's talk about the fifth episode, which is kind of a longer one. Or rather, this episode focuses on one cocktail, the Hemingway Daiquiri. Although it's more about Hemingway and his story about the old man and the sea. Because the story revolves around, I think it's... Oh wait, no. It's an employee who gets taken out to the bar by his boss. Except the boss makes fun of him for wanting a daiquiri. Because it's like... I think if I remember it, it goes like this. He asks for a daiquiri, but the boss is like, nah, get a manly drink. Why you getting a daiquiri? What are you doing with those 2 straws? Are you gonna play some kissy face? Heh, heh, heh. And then after that humiliating conga, the boss drops the bomb that he's getting transferred because he's kinda sucking. And that he's kinda pathetic. And the guy is just super defeated. And he comes back to the bar because he forgot something there. However, Ryu... Well, or rather, I forgot who initiates it, but... He gets the daiquiri that he was trying to have the other day. And the reason daiquiris have 2 straws, or so according to the anime, there's gotta be a real bartender out there that can answer me on this one. It has 2 straws, because 1 straw might actually get clogged with ice. And so the other one is just in case that straw gets clogged with ice. And then, while he's still kinda down about the whole transfer, Ryu talks about Hemingway and the story of the old man and the sea, where the old man struggles for a while to get the whale. But he never gives up. The old man keeps trying and trying and trying and trying until he finally gets the whale. And that inspires the employee to not take the reassignment as a complete defeat, but more like just a minor setback, a chance. He can get back to the main branch and shove it in his boss's face another time. And, well, as far as I go, I liked that this one was, I would say the episodes, like I said, the episodes that focus on 1 to 2 cocktails are generally the stronger ones. The ones that do 3, or in the case of the 11th episode of 2006, oh boy, we're not getting there for a while. I am definitely gonna have to do a part 2 to this. But that episode has like 5 different cocktails, and it's so disjointed. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, guys? Because individually, the stories in episode 11 are really good, but if you try to mash them together in a 20-something minute time limit, it's pretty bad. Oh. Anyway, back to this one. I like this one. I know the generic never give up lesson always gets repeated. Every fucking person says it. Every VTuber or someone else says it. But it's a classic one for a reason. Because, well, sometimes you just gotta press on. Or rethink and then press on. Or, you know, you get that minor setback, you work through it, get back to where you were. Get back to where you were. Something like that. Like, the old man struggles for the whale, but he eventually gets it at the end. So, it's like, I don't know. I guess I just like the kind of stories where the old dogs actually win out at the end, instead of giving up and, you know, letting the youth do it because my time is up bullshit. Boy, I'm really showing my age here. Alright. Now we get to the final episode for me to talk about for 2006. And this one is honestly pretty faithful to the manga too. It's pretty much a one-for-one for the manga, actually. Since in this one, it's about film producers who feel like they can't produce anything original anymore because they've been in the industry for so damn long that it's like everyone's done. It's a chat stream about a sentimental scene and it's going to be a that's true. That's very true. And this music is not helping it. I'm not shaking off these accusations any day soon. But I've always wanted to discuss this manga, this anime, for a very long time now, and it's like, fuck it. We're finally here. I'm so out of things to talk about for a talk stream, I will finally discuss the shit I actually like. It's like, fuck it. You know what? If my Oshis can gush about otomes, I can gush about a manga about alcoholic drinks. Even though I'm not an alcoholic. But yeah, I like seinens too. Like, I got nothing against shonens, but yeah. It's like, although out of all the seinens, I'd say Bartender is very high up there in my personal favorites. But let's get back to episode 6, because it's basically a 1-for-1 with the manga's version, where, well, yeah, 2 film producers are, well, they're recording a movie, or making a movie, except one guy goes missing to basically play a bar game, where he has several bartenders try to figure out the meaning behind a select choice of bottles. And, yeah. The old man basically has a riddle and a guessing game with, let's see. It was, shoot. Let me try to remember the name of the 4, the 4 drinks the old man uses. Let's see. He uses an Ardbor and, oh wait, there we go. Ardbeg, Lamfroig, Milton Duff, and Connoisseur's Choice. 4 different kinds of whiskey. And he's basically playing a game with the bartenders. And the bartenders, up until Sasakura, keep losing this game. They can't guess his intent behind it. Oh wait, there we go. That's the name. Ardbeg, Lamfroig, Milton Duff, and Glenbergie. Glenbergie. There we go. And they have to guess which bottle from all 4 of those, which whiskey does the old man want to drink? And Ryu gets it right, because it's none of those 4. He wants the Ballantyne's Scotch whiskey. Because Scotch whiskey was made in the Age of Rebellion, when I think... Oh, there it is. They had a heavy tax in the 18th century on malt. And Scotch whiskey, like the Ballantyne's, was made with... Right. So, with this one, they made a blended grain and malt whiskey to rebel. Or at least I think that's how it goes. Oh, right, no. So, okay, I'm misremembering all that. So, due to the malt tax, they made blended whiskey, which lost the characteristics of the original single malt whiskey. And it was the filmmakers' way of saying they're losing originality, and they probably can't get it back, and they're all burnt out. And the 2 old men argue over the fact that the script has to be good. Okay, so the script writer is arguing over how bad the scripts have been. But however, the other old man has to gather up the actors and whatnot to actually execute the script. So he's complaining that the script writer is being a bit of a baby. But both of them just come to the conclusion that, yeah, we're kind of burnt out after being in the industry for so damn long. We can't make anything good anymore. However, Ryu disagrees with both of their notions and recontextualizes blended whiskey not as a way of being cheap and unoriginal, but also a way of rebelling. Because it was a way to make whiskey, even though the malt was heavy taxed and illegal. Actually, no. Because of the malt being heavily taxed. And as a result, there was a smoother flavor created with the blended whiskey. And now that whiskey is loved and all. And at the end of the day, to console these two, Ryu makes an interesting... Well, I'm not even sure if it was a cocktail. Oh wait, no, never mind. He made something called an Aberdeen Angus, which involves, like, he puts the Scotch malt into a ladle, sets it on fire, and then dunks it in the glass and stirs it around. So it's kind of like a warm drink of sorts to reinvigorate their spirit. And then the old men go on to try once more after basically getting a second wind. In the manga, it turns out that Ryu is a big fan of their movies. He knows who they are, and that's why he did what he did. Which is also really touching. You gotta admit, it's stupidly touching. In fact, it's like, damn. Man, if I had any ideal bartender, I certainly would love one that remembers me like that. Well, anyways, I guess we're at the end of what I can, or rather what I wanted to discuss with the differences between manga and 2006. I would say for the most part, for the first, 6 episodes, it mostly keeps to the manga spirit. The only difference is, Ryu is a little less human in this one. You don't really get any off-screen hangouts with Ryu. He's just the perfect bartender. People have problem. Alright, it's time to give him some advice, change some lives with good drinks. Shit, I'm stuttering my words here. But yeah. I think that's the only problem with the 2006 one. It's still relaxing, but you can feel that little bit of human element missing to some extent. Although for the most part, the stories do stay very heartwarming and fantastic. So for the retro lovers, I would love to recommend this one. And I guess for curious people, I'd recommend it too, but I would say the manga, and depending on how the show turns out for the latest one, depending on how the show turns out, I would hope to recommend the latest Bartender show for future viewers. Oh man, I should really sip something. And now we transition to the second half, which means I'll probably transition the music now. I will say, though, let's turn this to 2024, and let's reset this back to episode 1. Because now we can get back to quite a few plot points that I mentioned earlier in regards to the various differences of all 3 versions. Now, I guess right off the bat, I will say, I'm kinda bummed out about the OP and the ED in the new one. The OP in Bartender 2024 it's just not as good as the first one. And the ED is alright, but it's no, man. I'm kinda bummed out with the ED. Cause in the 2006 show, they also show you the cocktail that was featured in the episodes. Maybe I should turn down the desktop audio a bit here. But yeah, let's get into episode 1. It's basically the same premise, but with a few minor callbacks and tidbits. Because, let's see. In the latest anime, they have a bit of an Easter egg for, they have a few Easter eggs. Actually, yeah. They have a few Easter eggs for, viewers. Let me see if I can just shrink it a little here. Okay, so they have a few Easter eggs. For one, this guest in particular, if you've read the manga, which I don't assume that everyone will, he's actually a character in said manga. He's this guy. Sorry about the cropping. I could have done a far better job, but yeah. So that character is also this guy, who's, the grasshopper is like a side drink in the manga. Oh, actually, yeah. The grasshopper is a side drink for the animes. However, in the manga, the grasshopper gets its own arc, featuring that guy. As there's also one more guest for the manga readers, although it could also be like a small preview of a future character. Damn, I'm a little congested. Feels really fucking bad. Oh man, I'm just zooming. But I'm just zooming here. But anyway. So let's talk about episode 1. It's kind of the same premise. Sort of. Now, instead of trying to make a bar for the hotel, they're actually trying to find a good bartender for the hotel's opening. Or rather, opening the hotel. The hotel's bar. They're trying to find a good bartender. So, Kurushima and Kamishima hold a bartending competition where 3 bartenders try to duke it out. Right, I forgot to mention that they also did that in the first episode of 2006. However, the cocktails used for this episode are... So, in the competition for the manga version and the, well, they kind of play with one of the bartenders at the end. Because the 2006 version more accurately follows the manga than the current version. Because in the 2006 version and in the manga for the bar competition, the featured cocktails are sidecar, martini, and a grasshopper pousse cafe style. Except in 2024, they play around with the sidecar guy by switching him out for a flair bartender for a quick gag where they're like, no flair bartenders, no, just no. But anyways, they can't find the bartender they want, so Miwa leaves off and is kind of fuming. She runs into Ryu at the park, and they do another anime switch up for episode 1, where Ryu does not know how to use a smartphone. So, like the boomer he is, he's struggling to swipe the phone and accept a call. So Miwa and the gang have to help him out. Later on, they run into each other again at a gyoza joint, where they're still trying to find their bartender of choice, and they have no luck. But as it turns out, later on in the episode, Ryu is the bartender. Well, is a bartender. It's hinted at it at the onset of the episode, with Ryu holding a book on Tokyo bars. Except it kind of flies over their heads, so they couldn't figure it out until later, where they go to Eden Hall, and there's Ryu doing drinks. And this is why I say it's kind of a manga gag. He makes a grasshopper for the grasshopper story arc guy. And it's also Pousse Cafe style. And Pousse Cafe is basically layering the alcohols on top of each other and trying to have it not mix. And you could imagine how hard that is to do. Well, for non-professionals. I'm sure professionals could do this Pousse Cafe style stuff just fine, but anyway. So, Miwa and her co-worker go to Eden Hall. They're kinda wowed by Ryu so far, so Miwa's Kohai asks for a martini. However, her stomach grumbles, so Ryu courteously asks, Are you hungry? Are you on a light stomach? And she's like, never mind, make me something pink. And Ryu gets on it. And he makes a cosmopolitan and blows her mind away. And it's like, is this guy the bartender? So then Miwa asks for a cocktail just for her. Which is kind of ridiculous. Well, I mean, it's Bartender, but I think it was from what I've watched from Tropical Raven. A bartender in that situation would probably ask you your likes, dislikes, what kind of drinks you usually favor. They have a little fun with it. Well, some of them. Some of them would probably just get annoyed. So, Ryu, instead of making a Mizuwari, he makes a bitch basic highball. Except the highball is so good that it blows her mind away. Even as she was about to write it off, and it's like, oh, he just made me a bitch basic drink. I gotta start over. This guy ain't it. Except, nope. And as it turns out, that drink was suited for her, because it's as said, it keeps the whiskey flavor apparently. But, however, it's less, it's not as strong as usual, because he was keeping an eye on her due to her looking at her cufflinks and the watch being positioned in a different way. Whew. As for which version I like a little bit more, I want to say both versions have their own ways of showing that Ryu notices the very little nitpicks about the customer. Although, I guess it gives Kamishima a little more development than this version. Although this version focuses a little more on Miwa being around than Kamishima. So I would say both versions are fine. As for which drink I would personally prefer, I don't know. If I were into alcohol, I'd probably rather drink a highball than a simple water cut. But anyway. Right, at the end of this, or rather, no wait, never mind. I'd have to talk about the next episode. Because the next episode for Bartender Kamino Glass is more faithful to the manga than the previous one. Actually, it's very faithful to the manga to some degree. Even if it's a little disjointed, since around this arc in the manga, Ryu's supposed to be around a bar called Le Pin, and not bar Eden Hall. He gets Eden Hall a lot later. Sorry if I'm stumbling my words quite a bit here. Anyway, so let's go to episode 2. Episode 2 features basically two tough customers. The first one being Ryu gets called out to help Bar Lupin, kinda keeping in continuity with the manga, since the manga is where the next story happens. Ryu gets a grumpy old man who hates all of his drinks, basically, and tells him to just go get a sake from a vending machine for him and keep the change. It's like, oof. So Ryu grumbles about it at his favorite gyoza joint. If this was 2006, Ryu would have already figured out the drink by now, but this ain't 2006, so Ryu's afforded a little more human development here. The human development really comes into play the next episode. Alright, I gotta breathe. I'm getting too excited to talk about this this manga. Oh, way too excited. Give me a second. A little congested here. Alright, back to it. So, second episode. Where were we? Alright, the old man. So, Ryu eventually figures out something about the old man and calls him back to, basically try again. And before he gives him the drink, he relates a story about how the bar's old master, way back when, made drinks when refrigeration wasn't readily available. I think it was around the World War II era, or post-World War II era, where I think refrigeration was getting its start, but not quite 100% there yet. So, the old bar master made slightly chilled cocktails that the old man really liked. So Ryu makes the old man an old pal, basically old friend, because, as it turns out, the bartender was the old man's old friend who sadly passed away before he did, and that's why he keeps coming back to Lupin to try to drink the master's flavor, even though he's not around anymore. But no one got it right, except our boy Ryu here figures it out and blows the old man away. In the manga, there's like a little extra tidbit where Ryu describes the more chilled flavors of the past being probably not to everyone's taste today. But they didn't keep that part in the anime, unfortunately. Though I guess it makes sense, since the anime gets split up with a different arc later. With, well, yet another rude customer who goes in, demands a drink from Ryu, basically shit talks about how bartenders are getting paid to listen to customers' problems, and they're all assholes because they're getting paid to listen to problems, and it's like, well, damn. So, Ryu has her wait for this drink because he needs to go upstairs to get the drink. Except the drink is basically a soup. It's basically a soup. It's like beef bouillon, vodka, Worcestershire sauce, salt, and pepper. It's a freaking soup. Well, when heated. You can drink it chilled, and I guess it would be a cocktail then, but it's basically a soup. And the soup, well, it cheers her up a lot. And to be fair, I would say a warm drink is sometimes called for. Oh, right, it slipped my mind that the woman who shit talks Ryu comes in from the rain, so that's also probably part of why he chose the bullshot. And it cheers her up. And Ryu goes on a spiel about how there's a saying called "one for the road," where it's like, what do you regret? What are you gonna regret leaving behind, or something like that? And she talks about, you know what, let me draw up the plot summary so I don't misremember this one. Because I liked the bullshot one. It wasn't too bad. Right, so he talks about one for the road, and about how it's a phrase for a final drink taken before reluctantly leaving. And he asks her, "Who are you reluctantly parting with?" She answers the bartender, but Ryu answers, "Sometimes a person needs to pretend and lie to survive in the adult world." So, one for the road is a final drink taken before leaving on a journey. And he goes on the spiel where it's like, when you drink at a bar, you just want to part with all of your troubles and all of the annoying things at the bar. And she goes for a second one, and he goes to make her a Bloody Bull variant of the bullshot. And later, as it turns out, the bullshot is actually a mystery novel name, based on a lawyer who acts like an asshole, but is actually a nice person. Very cheeky, because she is a lawyer, and he figured it out from her duffel bag a while back, and it's like, damn, this guy really tried to pull one on me. But she takes it in stride and tells her coworker, "Hey, you want to go to this bar I found? All I know is that bartender's an asshole." But in the same episode, Ryu goes on about like, I'd rather be an asshole than a hypocrite. I don't know, I just found that part kind of funny. For that one. Man. Whew. The next episode is pretty contentious and kinda hard on our boy Ryu. Cause, lad. So, the old man from episode 2 gets invited to this event, where, in this version, they properly introduce Mr. Perfect as making stunning cocktails, and is the top of the bar class. Except, when the best bartender goes to ask it like, "Hey, you're the old man who only drinks at Le Pin. Are you gonna finally try my cocktail?" And the old man's like, "Nah, son. I got this guy named Sasakura who's been making some interesting stuff at Eden Hall." And the old man probably doesn't like that. That's a bit of a blow to his pride. So, the old man and, Miwa, who is revealed to be his granddaughter, head to Eden Hall, where, okay, I'm starting to forget the order of sequence here for episode 3. I want to say the B&B story happens first, and I'm pretty sure the B&B story happens first, so let's just go with that. There's another girl that comes in, asking about the time the bar closes, and then she asks him to make a B&B. I think it was it was Benedictine and Brandy. I think that was it. That's the abbreviation. But Ryu makes a really good B&B, but it upsets the girl. And with that B&B, she's like, I'm gonna just quit my job, and leaves the bar. And Miwa's a bit sad about it, and Ryu is also sad about it, and also figures out she's a bartender, because normal people don't ask for bar closing times, apparently. So it's one of those, it takes another one in the industry to know one. So, after that, the old man stops by, And then Mr. Perfect shows up and orders a gin fizz. But Ryu kinda shakes it up here and makes a Ramos gin fizz. Which, I've heard some legends about the Ramos gin fizz. It's apparently the one bartenders don't like on a busy day. And it's like, if you really hate your bartender, or you want to be a straight-up douchebag, you order a Ramos gin fizz. Because it's a gin fizz with a meringue, and the meringue takes some time to shake, to set up. Because you have to, like, mix it with egg, and then you have to do a dry shake. Then you do a shake with ice. Then you let the meringue set in a freezer, and then you pour seltzer water on it. Yeah, it's pretty time-consuming for a cocktail. Holy crap. I think if I were a bartender, I'd get a little miffed having to make one of those too. Even though apparently it tastes really good. I wouldn't know. I'm not into alcohol. I say this as I'm talking about a frickin' seinen about alcohol. This is about as absurd as you get. Anyway. So, the old man figures that it's the special variant of the Gin Fizz, and Ryu tells him, "It's because I figured out you're a pro, and I thought the normal version of Gin Fizz would be probably boring for you." So, and then he asks, "Wait, does it taste bad?" And the old man's like, "No, it tastes pretty good, but how did you know I was a pro bartender?" And then Ryu, with his ridiculous Sherlock scan, is like, "Well, you see, you have a bunch of calluses that only come from bartending a whole bunch." And it brings up the question of, wait, but why did he order a Gin Fizz? And I don't know how true this reasoning is, but right. So I don't know what the if this reasoning is true. So the pro bartender ordered a Gin Fizz to test Ryu, since Gin Fizz is a fundamental cocktail. So it's one of those, I hope this guy knows the fundamentals, or let's see how good this guy's fundamentals are. And at the end of all this, he's asking if he put rum in the Gin Fizz. But no, it turns out to be confectioner sugar, which makes the pro bartender a bit miffed. And so the pro bartender leaves and talks about how Ryu's cocktail is far from perfect. I'm just gonna say he got salty. He got salty, or a boy pulled a good fat wool over him. Because if I got tricked with like, this is some oak smoked rum, and it's like, no, it's just confectioner sugar, my dude. It's like, damn. Anyways, so Mr. Perfect storms off. Ryu gets one over him, and then later on, it goes into Ryu's day-to-day. There's a bit of a difference in the next scene for the manga and the anime version. In the manga version, in both versions, he ends up meeting with the girl who stormed out from the B&B incident. And in the manga, he helps her carry some bottle of alcohol. In this one, they just have a chat over coffee. And the girl bartender, now named, she reveals her name as Kyoko. And, sorry, that was not what I meant to say. She introduces herself as Kyoko and goes into the story about how she tried to make a B&B, but a recurring customer said, it's not quite there yet, and her bartending teacher kind of berates her for overstirring, and she just got really upset about it. And she was about to quit, but then Ryu intentionally tries to piss her off and fire her. Piss her off and light a fire in her, basically. Man, I am stumbling the words today. Probably tomorrow too. But yeah, Ryu tries to light a fire in her, and, well, he succeeds. And she gets so pissed that it's like, you know what, the next time you come to my bar, no wait, I'm not gonna quit yet, I gotta show you up. And then Ryu's like, yeah, that's the spirit, that's the good shit. And it's like, dah. I'm sure there's cases like that for a lot of things. Well, I mean, I'm mainly in the VTubing sphere, so I've seen this happen a lot. Where it's like, someone wants to quit, but then their Oshi or someone close to them convinces them to keep going, and, you know, they try a bit again. That sort of spirit. Whew. Which leads us into the third act of episode 3, where it's Mr. Perfect again, and he challenges Ryu to basically a cocktail duel as to who can make the better Manhattan. At first, Ryu actually seems like he's going to win. But then, Mr. Perfect asks the judge to taste it again. And Ryu's taste goes down after a while, but Mr. Perfect's taste stays the same. Basically. And Ryu tastes Mr. Perfect's Manhattan, storms off, and gets a bit salty that he got shown up by a pro. And it's like, dang, dude! You okay, pal? I mean, come on, you beat him the first time. And Miwa has to go and cheer him up from his saltiness. I will say, Bartender has me thinking. I know it's a different kind of thing, but it's like, I'd have to wonder, do I have an effect on my artists? It's like, I know I commission them for stuff, and I come to them with my bizarre-ass ideas, but it's like, I'd have to wonder, have I cheered them up as much as they made me enjoy their work? It's one of those things I just kind of wonder sometimes. Well, I don't know, really, at the end of the day. But I would hope I had a positive effect, even if it is just customer to artist. But yeah, Miwa brings Ryu back from the sulkiness. And that's how episode 3 ends. I would say, while it's pretty hard on our boy Ryu by questioning his methods of trying to please the customer and the whole ideal of the perfect taste or actually making something perfect for whoever needs it and customizing it to them. Well, for one, it introduces Mr. Perfect a lot better than the 2006 anime where he's just like, he's a nobody. In this one, Mr. Perfect is a goal for Ryu to strive towards. Or a different ideal that he has to balance with his ideal, so to speak. Whew. Oh man, I need to take a small breather. Oh my. Whew. Because we're almost to my favorite episodes, actually. Well, some of them. Mainly episode 5. I have so much to say about episode 5 because it's just so good. It's so good. God damn it. Episode 5 in this one's just Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Let's I'm gonna title it to episode 4 now, and let me take a hydration rain check. Whew. Alright, so the 4th episode follows the manga chapter The Ingredients of a Bar and a Martini's Expression. The first half. Alright, so this is where Kamishima is actually introduced in this version. Instead of, well, he's been a background character for episode 1 and a bit of episode 2, but he's more in the forefront this time, as the hotel is trying to get a good chef, and they have a potential candidate, except this chef wants to import ingredients straight up from France. Like, no substitutes, just import straight from France. Even the water, import from France. You can guess how ridiculous that would actually be, to try to import fresh French ingredients all the way to Japan. That's pretty fucked. Like, at best you can get like maybe a 2-day delivery or a 1-day if you blow all the money at it, but it's like, bruh, that's such a profit loss. But as the chef tries to reason, it's like cooking yakitori without the sauce. It has to be from Japan, right? It has to be the Japanese sauce. You can't substitute this stuff. So why are you trying to substitute my French cuisine? And so, with the chef being hard to deal with, Kamishima gets recommended to go ask Ryu Sasakura for help. And he goes there. And he gets a Moscow Mule, which is apparently another popular one. I could imagine it being probably pretty good. I guess for me, if I had to imagine cocktails, well, other than a highball, that I would probably like to try if I ever got into alcohol, or, you know, developed more of a taste for drinks, I want to say the caipirinha or mojito would probably be my choices to try. But I don't know. Maybe in some weirdo future I'll give it a go. Anyways, so Kamishima gets a Moscow Mule and just gets straight up blown away. Although, I guess the drink gasms for this show, they don't last as long as 2006's drink gasms, but that's besides the point. Anyway, so Kamishima enlists Ryu's help to try and convince the French chef to actually take the hotel job, and Ryu goes for it. At first, Ryu goes to his local gyoza joint, where the owner put honey in the gyoza, and talks about how if you change your perception, you'll get new flavors. And it's like, hey yo! Cause that can apply to a lot of things. If you change your perception, you could get new flavors, or new ideas, or just flipping your perspective on something. Like saying things that shouldn't go together, but actually trying to make them go together. It's like, damn. That's definitely good advice. Now, I thought the honey was going in a different direction, because around this arc, in the manga anyways, they were trying to hire an architect for the hotel. And honey was involved in hiring the architect, but I suppose with this one they went with a later arc first. So, Kamishima, Miwa, and I think it was Higuchi or Yukari? I'm trying to remember the name of her co-worker here, but I'm drawing blanks. I'm drawing big blanks. Alright, I'm trying my best here. Oh, no, it is Yukari. Okay. I was drawing a little blank, but yeah, so the trio of Yukari, Kamishima, and Miwa try to go around and show the chef a good time, but the chef is getting angry. He's just not negotiating. So they make a stop to Eden Hall, and Ryu pulls out a red drink that looks like wine. And the chef thinks he has a shot of figuring it out. So he tastes it, looks at the color, swirls it around, and concludes it's an Orloso. But Ryu pulls the big wool and is like, "No sir, that is 10-year-old Mirin." And I mean, for me, I'm like, the fuck? Holy shit. I'm like, really? That thing is 10-year-old Mirin? Can 10-year-old fermented Mirin really taste like a wine? It's like, bruh, what? And it's like, everyone's laughing except the chef. The chef is pissed off, because they basically tricked him. And he's like, "No, I'm not working with you people. Fuck you people. You tricked me. I can't work with tricksters." But then Ryu stops him from storming off, and relates to him about how he's afraid of the prejudice, because as a Japanese chef making French food, people are gonna say you're not using the right ingredients, the techniques are wrong, or a bunch of other nitpicks, because their perceptions of French cuisine and you. And Ryu has experienced the same thing because he was a Japanese bartender in France. So he probably got the same kind of complaints, like, "This ain't the right technique, this ain't the right French drink, what are you doing? Can Japanese people really make cocktails?" That sort of thing. And he's using the Mirin to say that it's like, you don't need French ingredients to make French cuisines. And you can make French cuisines in Japan with Japanese ingredients. Or things that are similar. And it's like, damn! And the chef gets the point and opens up to negotiations. I almost said a yippee there, like a monkey. I really wanted to say that yippee, but nah, that's not the right time. We're not done with episode 4 yet, though, as the next part, Kyoko comes in again. This time, she didn't quit the job, but she's run into another snag. Her martini, as described by her teacher, has no face, but she doesn't know what that even means. And it's like, could you blame her? So, she asked Ryu to make a martini, and using the same ingredients her teacher did. And he does. And it actually, according to her, actually tastes like something. And this segues into Ryu explaining that martinis are a very customizable drink. There's a lot of vermouths, there's a lot of gins, endless flavor combinations. And that her martini, she was just copying the teacher, which is why it had no face, because it's not hers. She's not using the characteristics of her alcohol to the fullest potentials. And she gets mad. And then I'm gonna take a page out of the Tropical Raven here. Ryu basically rizzes her up and is like, "Hey, if you're so pissed off about martinis, let's go get another one at this bar I know." And she's like, "Well, she goes along with it. And they end up in a bar that Ryu trained at, called Hell's Arms. Except the owner's not there. Instead, it's a different bartender. Another female bartender who also plays an integral part to the story later. Her name's Yuri, and they ask for martinis from her. So she gives them a vodka martini with a lemon peel that floats all the way to the bottom and doesn't float up. Now, I know that Raven said vodka martinis are shit. I'm not sure how good vodka martinis actually are. Apparently shaking them is probably not a good idea. Unless it's the Vesper, which is apparently meant to be shaken. But I'm not a drink connoisseur. I don't know if any of this is, 100% agreed on, or just, opinions and all. Probably it is just opinions, so. But he's the bartender. I'm just a schmuck talking about an anime I like. A lot. Anyway. So, back to it. Turns out, Yuri's been a bartender for only 3 years, which shakes up Kyoko quite a bit. So Kyoko asks for a gin martini, and she gets one with chilled gin. Chilled gin. And it also has a face. And I think Kyoko finally gets the point that she needs to try and make her own martini, something original to her. And after that, they all leave the bar. And the the bar owner, comes back, asks Yuri about who came. She talks about Sasakura and the gang. And it turns out Ryu actually trained at Hell's Arms a long time ago. And he knows the secret behind the lemon peel trick. Where I think it's in the anime. No, actually no. The manga has it too. But it's actually shown in the anime where the trick is to cut the rind from, the bottom of the lemon peel. Or cut enough of it so you can sink the lemon peel all the way to the bottom and have it stay there so the guest can sip without the lemon peel getting in the way. Whew. Oh my. I will say, for that episode, I like the ideas it presents. That whole idea of you can do French cuisine as a Japanese, or, do VTubing as a male VTuber, or as a 60-year-old granny, or be a 60-year-old granny that plays JRPGs, or some other ludicrous combinations that probably shouldn't happen, but can be achieved anyways. Some things probably won't happen, but, the whole you don't have to be locked in a perception. I think that's the important takeaway of that one. And as for the other half, I want to say it's all about just, everyone has their own kind of flavor that they can create. And purely copying won't get you much of anywhere. The issue of originality... right, it shows up twice then. Because the filmmaker episode was also about the issue of originality and still having it in this age. So, I guess that's just another thing I've thought about. As far as episode 4 goes, anyways. As far as faithfulness goes, I would say both parts are 1-to-1 in the manga. And while it seems kinda disjointed at first, it is a series of vignettes, so technically, any combination of events could happen at any time. Although some story arcs actually only make sense when they are followed in a chronological order, as far as Bartender goes. Okay, we're finally on my favorite episode of the bunch so far. Episode 5. Holy shit, Episode 5 is so good! For now, I prefer it over the Margarita episode. My tune could change, but for now, let's talk about Episode 5 and what happens in Episode 5. So, Episode 5. Miwa, Ryu, Yuri, and Kyoko. Kyoko, and another bartender named Chen. They all go on a tour of Yamazaki Distillery. Because, old man Kurushima pulled some strings and let them go on the trip. And so they go. And everyone's all peppy. Except for Chen. Chen is basically a straight-up robot. For a good chunk of the episode. As for who Chen is the bartending apprentice of Mr. Perfect. And they make the joke that Mr. Perfect's training is also turning him into a robot. Oh dear. Dearie me. But, yeah. So, they go on the tour. It's kinda awkward at first, because Kyoko is basically simping over Chen, except Chen's just not interacting with anyone at all. And he has, like, quite a number of robotic responses. They get to the tour. They get to the whiskey sampling. Ryu samples some unaged whiskey. He asks... Shit, I need to drink. Oh, God. He asks for Chen to try some of the unaged whiskey. Except Chen's like, nah, dude, I'm fine. I wouldn't serve this to customers. And Ryu's like, nah, try it. Come on. I mean, at least get to know the flavor. And he does. And it's about as bitter as you would expect it. And in the next part, they're trying to teach the tour guide how to make a highball. And Chen just does it kind of robotically. And the guest, or rather the tour guide's awkwardly complimenting him. Or it feels kind of awkward anyways. And then, after that rather awkward tour, Miwa, well, actually all the girls, or mostly I think it's just Miwa and Kyoko. I might have to rewatch that episode. My memory is not 100% on what happens, but Miwa and Kyoko complain about Chen. And Ryu's just kind of taking it in stride. The next day, they have another tour, or maybe it happened on the same day. No, wait, I think it happened on the same day, never mind. Because beforehand, they're looking at the aged whiskey barrel. Yeah, the aged whiskey barrels. Except, Chen keeps staring at the Yamazaki 12-year. He's really fixated on the 12-year. And, a little later on, Chen tries to visit a place. Except it turns out that place is closed down. And so we're nearing the final arc of the story, where they go to a bar, and Ryu does an impromptu session, where he serves Chen the 12-year-old Yamazaki. And Chen basically spills his guts about his regrets. Because Chen comes from, I want to say he was the son of some kind of a CEO. And the dad had a tight leash around him. But they were staying at this hotel in the Yamazaki distillery area. Where Chen falls for the hotel owner's daughter. And they both get along for a while. And then they have plans about going to a festival. And they make a bet on popsicles a la Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2. Where, if it lands on winner, both of them have to ditch their parents and go to the Gion festival. And it does. Except Chen didn't have the guts at the end of the day. And didn't go out with her. And he's regretted it ever since then. And we're going back to the Margarita episode. He's been getting Gion tickets from her. Just like how the girl kept giving the old man CEO tickets to a dollhouse. See, I was gonna come back to this eventually. What did I say, huh? Anywho. So, ever since that time, he's held on to the regrets for 12 years about a lot of the what-ifs, and how he, couldn't get together with her. And Ryu relates it to how whiskey matures, and how it takes so long to have how it takes a good while to have a good flavored whiskey. And I think he adds a drop of water in the whiskey, and it's like, I want to say it's something about a drop of sweetness, a drop of sweetness with the bitterness, but I don't know. I might be misremembering, but drinking the 12-year-old finally lets Chen let it all out. And at the end of the episode, Chen is a lot happier, except the episode doesn't end the way you would think these things end. In a normal anime, Chen would reunite with his long-lost love. In this one, it ends a little more realistically, where he doesn't get that chance, and it's like, damn. It's such a bummer, but that's also how things sometimes go. It's like I said earlier, there was a friend I wish I could see again, but I don't know where they are now, nor may I ever know where they are. But I suppose I'll have to take that one in stride, as always. I wish there were more to discuss on cocktails, but that episode does not really have one. Like the Margarita episode. It just uses the 12-year alcohol as a medium for discussing Chen's long-lost regrets. And helping him get over those regrets. And it's still touching in its own way. You know, despite him not getting back with the girl or seeing her again, it's like the guy finally lets go of basically a burden, and it's like, you could tell he's so much happier. And it's like, you know, that's still good. It's not the happy ending, but it's still a happy ending, and I'd say that's more than enough. So, we're on the latest episode, at least for me. Let's talk about episode 6. 'Cause, let's see, this one, there's quite a few differences. For one, Hayase gets introduced here. However, it's a later arc Hayase, where he's actually a good manager. He takes the blame for the employees fucking up, and his superiors don't like that he doesn't want to throw his employees under the bridge, so to speak. The guy also quit smoking, So he's also been having a struggle with not having the usual cope. So he goes to Eden Hall, asks for a bamboo, except there's a woman there lighting cigars, and he's not happy because he hasn't been able to smoke one, and he gets really angry about it, in conjunction with frustrations about his superiors treating him like dog shit. And so Hayase snatches the cigar away from the young woman, snaps it in half all angrily, and it's like, damn, dude! And she just storms out, understandably. And then Hayase has the moment of, oh man, I fucked up, didn't I? And instead of scolding him, Ryu just takes him behind the counter and tells him the girl's story in a roundabout way. Turns out, the girl was a doctor who wanted to celebrate a newborn's birth with apparently a tradition of lighting a cigarette. Or apparently it was tradition to get a cigarette box for a newborn's birth. And she was fighting really hard to save one of the newborns, except the newborn still died of a disease, and she's been kinda depressed ever since then. She lights up the cigarettes, but she never actually smokes them. So it's kind of a cope for her, and, well, yeah, he didn't know, but it's like, you can't know everyone in their story. So, Hayase tries to make amends by basically waiting for her to come back for several days until she finally does. And they both apologize to each other. And Hayase hands her a box of cigars. But she can't accept it. And so our man Ryu plays wingman and tries to set the two up, more or less. And then the fun part is, they become background characters as another arc enters the fold. This time it's Yukari. She's celebrating getting a marriage. And to celebrate, she goes to Eden Hall and asks, sorry. She asks for a drink, and Ryu gives her a Amaretto Alexander to commemorate things. Let's see. I'm trying to remember why he gave the Amaretto Alexander. It's somewhere around here. There it is. Okay, so she gets an Amaretto Alexander to celebrate the marriage because it was a cocktail to celebrate the marriage of Prince Edward and Princess Alexandra. However, she comes back to the bar again and she asks for yet another Alexander. Because, and then Ryu talks about the Alexander yet again, except this time, it's from a movie. There was a movie called Days of Wine and Roses, where the main character recommended a cocktail for his wife, and it was the Alexander, but the Alexander turned his wife into an alcoholic and completely destroyed her. Just like how rushing into a marriage is probably a bad idea, and you should take your time. And it turns out Yukari was trying to get a marriage because her grandmother's dying, and she just wants to make her grandmother happy, but Of course, it's not actually what she wants, so at the end of the day, she ditches the idea. And she also cries at the bar. And the anime adds an I want to say an interesting detail. But in the manga, Ryu looks at her while she cries. In the 2024 anime, Ryu stares away while she cries, while talking about how bars are dimly lit to hide the tears. I'm pretty sure that's not actually what it's actually for, but, you know. We let the sentimental things slide. It's a story about heartwarming stuff. I wouldn't want to ruin it. But yeah, it turns out Yukari was lying about trying to get a marriage. And the end quote for this is, "People who find out they are asleep are actually already halfway awake. Deep down, everyone already knows what they want to do." In the manga, it ends kind of funnily, where he's talking about it with Miwa, and Miwa just gets pissed off at him with that quote, and she just wants to get wasted. The manga really ships the two together. I think the anime tries to, too. While the 2006, Miwa and Ryu are just neutral. So, there's that. Whew, and with all that talk, comes the end of me talking about Bartender. For now, we might do a second session, we might not, we'll see. Sorry I keep stumbling on the words and having phlegm build up and all. Maybe I should get that one checked, I don't know. That or I'll start eating halls before I do long talks. But what can I say? For an alcoholic medium, it has so many good stories that I would say a lot of non-alcoholics could relate to. And someone did mention, it's like, wait, if they're celebrating drink culture, why not just make one about tobacco? Or something else? And it's like, I would say it's because drink culture has a lot that goes into it. A lot of drinks have their histories and such. And the way Bartender uses alcohol isn't to get the customer drunk. It's more to relieve their stress, or get them thinking a little more positively. You know, even though it's like they're getting slightly drunk. But yeah. I'd say Bartender uses drinks responsibly, as they should. And the stories behind them, Ryu's interactions and developments, they're all so damn tender and heartwarming, and it's just such a nice series to unwind to. I would say, if you get anything from this through my rather messy talk, you should try Bartender. It's a great one. More people should watch this show. I hope I'm not the only one who does. Hopefully there's more. Or, I would love to talk about this show with, like, I don't know, another guest viewer or something. One of these days, who knows. Maybe never, but it would be nice. It would be nice. But, till then, we'll have to shelve bartending talk until, well, probably when the season ends. Unless the anime is a 24 course, then we may have another chat stream about this one sooner or later. Oh man. Let's see. I should probably link this playlist so that Yeah, I'm gonna link this playlist somewhere in the description. So let's see. If I remember right, the OSTs I used are the old Pal and the Moscow Mule. And one more for the heck of it. It was Black Velvet. There we go. Whew. Alright, and with that, this concludes the bartending talk. I might have gone a little too quick coyote for it, and I wish I didn't have these phlegm problems, but, well, all said and done, it's a good show. It's a good anime. I was glad I could yap about it, even though I'll probably have to make better notes for next time. But I guess as a first subject-based chat, I would say, I guess that wasn't too bad. I thought I was going to be less passionate about this, but damn, I really went at it. And if I didn't limit myself to 6 episodes, I would have probably gone for even more. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Till then, take care y'all, and have a good night.